All righty. Well, good morning to all of my panelists and all of you that are watching on the interwebs. Welcome to the last day of the 10th anniversary of our Coastal Magic Convention. We are obviously not at the beach. We are coming to you in our little computer boxes. And I am happy that each of you gets to join us from wherever it is that you are comfortable and you call home. Right now, we are actually going to spend our lovely Sunday morning talking about killing things. So, why not, right? This is the killing game. This is a panel that we started a couple of years ago at our in-person Coastal Magic, and it was a super popular panel. Everybody loved hearing all of the stories from the authors about why they chose to kill off who they chose, the consequences of those decisions, interesting ways that they have killed off characters, all of those kinds of things we'll get to talk about this morning. I will take a couple of minutes here at the start. We're going to have each of our authors let you know who they are, what they write, and then we will get going. If you are watching online and have questions or comments for people, I promise I am paying attention to the panelists, but I am going to look away occasionally just to the side so I can look at the comments on my phone to see what people are thinking and any questions that they might have, and that way we can include all of those in the panel as well. So Deborah, why don't you get us started and we'll get around to everybody and then we'll get on our questions.
Good morning, I'm Deborah Blake. I am the author of a number of series for Berkeley, most notably the Baba Yaga series, which is paranormal romance. The books in which I kill people are actually cozy mysteries. Forbidden Fatality is the first one, and then Doggone Deadly, and then the third one, Clause for Suspicion, will be out in May, hopefully. And so I'm fairly new to killing people, and I'm having a grand time doing it.
Yay! James?
I'm James R. Tuck. I write the Deacon Chalk series and some other books, but the Deacon Chalk series are coming back out from Falstaff Books this year. So we'll have a new novel, a new novella, and all the other ones released with new covers and updated material. And in that series, there's quite a bit of killing things.
Yes, there is. quite a bit of inventive killing.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Lisa?
I'm Lisa Kessler, and I write paranormal romances, but I came to that via horror. So I'm a very experienced killer, sometimes gooier than others. But most people, even in my paranormal romances, things often get gooey. Most of my readers are used to that from me. But for me, it's more of whether it was killing off a bad guy or killing off someone who's going to make you cry. So there's big difference.
Gotcha. All right.
Shades of killing.
We already have a comment that somebody loves your shirt, Tere. So way to go, starting off fresh.
Yeah. Oh, I like it.
My shirt is Death Riding In on a black kitty. If you have a black kitty, you understand. If at any point you hear a thudding noise, that is my 5 pounds of cat trying to get through my office door. Hi, I'm Tere. I write contemporary romance in which there is sentimental killing, i.e. you will feel sad. And then I write the vigilante series where there is killing and you will probably feel less sad and more thumbs up.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so first question right off the bat. So excited about the new Deacon Chalk. James, will Jim Beaver continue to narrate the new audios?
I don't know, but I kind of doubt it.
Okay.
That was a deal through Audible, and they were the ones who chose Jim Beaver. I don't know who was in charge of that decision. I love it. But I'm not sure if John's even going to do audiobooks for the next ones, but if he does, he'll probably leave the Jim Beaver ones in place and then carry on with the new material.
With something new. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Very cool.
That's completely out of my hands, though, so I have no say in it at all.
No choice. Gotcha. Well, I think that happens a lot.
The things people think authors control that they don't control is
right. Yeah. I think that was a hopeful question more than anything else.
Yeah, the first time around, I didn't even know he was recording them until I saw a tweet that someone had sent me. Where he was talking about recording the book. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
people are on it this morning. There's lots of good morning comments. So they are all about the killing of things. So
Yay.
yay. Okay, Lisa, you actually touched on one of my questions I was going to ask later, but since you mentioned it, we'll go ahead and start off with that. Is there a difference for you when you approach killing something sentimentally or killing something that's like a bad guy? So we'll start with you, and I think Tere mentioned it as well, so we'll go to Tere after.
Okay, for me there is, because it hurts me too. I know that people are like, why'd you make me cry? But I swear it makes me cry too. But usually it has to happen for a reason. It's usually character driven, and I really don't do it on purpose to make people cry. But it happens. When it's a bad guy, though, I'm often really in the moment. And there was one book in particular that I brought in for the killing of Wolf Moon that had a really bad villain. And my husband still to this day tells people stories of the day he came downstairs and I had finally killed the bad guy. And he said that I grinned, and he came down and said, what's going on? And I said, I finally killed him, and it was gooey and glorious. And it really was. Because sometimes I build up the hate too. And so then it feels really good when they get it. So for me, I come at it from a totally different way. Usually if it's somebody who's gonna make you cry, it's not something that happens quickly, or so it's usually more bittersweet if it's somebody that you like. I did have a book, let's see if I brought it, that I killed the bad guy, but I had redeemed him. And so I got lots of email about the Muse Chronicles of, I can't believe you made me cry for Ted, because, and I cried too writing it, because I had finally redeemed this guy, but he sacrificed himself, which was part of his redemption. And so he had to die, but I felt super bad because he had finally redeemed himself. Yeah. So death is a hard thing in books.
Yeah. Tere, how do you differentiate the way you approach those two types of killing?
I think I'd like to say I'm sentimental and I feel bad when I kill somebody in my contemporaries, but that is very hard for me to do with a straight face, because my very first book in the Faith, Love, and Devotion series opens with a death. And the death of that character, who is never on screen, on page at any point, kind of permeates so much of the rest of the book. And so I'd like to say that I'm sentimental, but honestly, there is a calculated edge to it, because I would really like readers to be like, oh my God, this is the saddest thing ever. I'm upset too. There's a death in the second book in that series that I had already planned right from the beginning. I tell you right from the beginning, this is a sick man, dead man walking, just so you know. And I still, after God only knows how long, 15 years, it still makes me cry when I read it. So that is, part of me is like, yes, feelings. And the writer part of me is like, yeah, okay, nice work. Vigilante is different because you're killing a lot of people, but you're killing bad people. And because you're through the eyes, the protagonist is the character who's like, I will take back my city. You're like, yeah. So I'd like to say that I feel bad for it. And I guess I do, but the writer part of me really doesn't. It's really planned for maximum damage.
James?
Yeah.
Do you have to approach the way the whether the character is somebody that is technically a good guy or a bad guy? Do you have to approach those differently, or is it all just kind of in the writing process?
No, when I killed off one of the crew in book 3, I did a bait and switch on the reader, where, spoilers for anybody that's watching, I really leaned in on foreshadowing that one of the other characters was at risk. because everybody's at risk in this world.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
it's
nobody's safe.
monster hunting. Nobody's safe. Not even the main character is safe. So I really leaned in to kind of lead readers to not want Father Mulcahy to die, and then I killed someone else kind of out of nowhere, because that's the way death also happens.
Right.
It doesn't, you don't always get a warning of any kind. It just
Yeah.
occurs.
Right.
Yeah.
Deborah, do you?
It was tough.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cozies are a little bit different because they're not gory, for one thing. I mean, there are certain sort of unspoken rules in cozies where you really don't want to make people cry or get very upset because it's cozy. So hopefully you're mostly killing off people that they're going to be like, oh, good. And in my second one, I did actually kill off somebody, innocent bystander, kind of, nice person. But, then you were hoping for sort of the outrage and the, ooh, let's, go find out who did this kind of thing. In cozies, the murder has to somehow tie, into the protagonist in a way that will force her to get involved. And so when you come up with who's going to die, some of it is, you have to pick somebody that there's going to be a reason somewhere in that book for, this, person who is not a vigilante and who is not a monster hunter to
Right.
somehow get sucked into the murder mystery. So that's part of, how you're thinking about who you're going to kill off. It's like, well, who do they know who this person knows, or why, who's going to get accused that this protagonist has to protect.
Right. I'm going to actually start with James in this because you mentioned it in your thing. Do you decide at the beginning of writing a book that there are some characters that are going to be safe no matter what? Or is everybody fair game in the process? Or do you get surprised by who you end up deciding during the story that, they got to go? James?
Well, as far as the bad guys, they're pretty much all on the table.
Gotcha.
Any of the main crew, though, are all also on the table. So at no point is anybody always safe.
Right.
As a matter of fact, when I killed the main character in book 3, it's because we're 3 books in and no one really has died. We've all suffered, we've had injuries, things have happened, but like the main crew is still all fine.
Right.
So when I wrote the pre-novella for book 3, I set up the fact that even though Deacon may come in and he may do everything he can and kill all the bad guys, it doesn't mean the person's going to live, because the character in that, the victim, didn't survive. And that was me going ahead and setting it up in your brain like, people die in this universe.
Right.
Get comfortable. So yeah, everybody's on the table. As we continue on with the series, there will be more tears.
Yeah. Yep.
Because Deacon can't have a stable life, and he won't fight monsters anymore if everything's happy and roses.
Right.
So,
that's true. That is true. Tere, does everybody in your world get that decision made at the beginning, who's safe and who's not, or is it just kind of as it goes?
It depends entirely. My mind has been changed. In the Vigilante, there's a character who was meant to die. She was meant to die several times, but as I approached the story, but I liked her too much, which if you read the Vigilante series, you know which character I'm talking about, and you know why it's ironic that she just keeps eluding me from killing her every single time. She has more than 9 lives. She's about 36 lives. And when she's run out, she'll probably con somebody out of theirs. I did actually plan in book 3, which came out last year-ish. I wrote like 2 chapters of this really spectacular sort of gray character's death, and it was amazing. Like, I was really proud of myself. And then I read it and I was like, you can't kill him yet. I was like, damn it. So he had to stay alive for plot purposes, but he had a really spectacular death that exists in a file on my desktop. It may or may not occur at some point because it's really good. But you know, my visceral joy at killing him in this way was tempered by the little writer voice, the adult writer voice. It was like, you're going to need him later.
Right.
Reprieve. In my contemporaries, I do usually know who's going to die because, again, it's specific. Like there's a specific reason why this person is
Right.
going to pass away.
Gotcha.
Die makes it sound like I'm killing people in my contemporaries with like boulders. No, I'm going to use pass away for the contemporaries because I feel it's much better.
But I mean, you could use a boulder if you wanted to.
I could, but I feel like, I mean, Faith, Love, and Devotion series is over, but I believe it would be a bit jarring for anybody reading that contemporary series about, you know, family and relationships to have somebody hit with a boulder. Like,
The world is a strange place, is all I'm saying.
I do understand. And yes, there are boulders in Central Park. However, again, I really feel like I killed enough people in that series to make people cry. I don't need to boulder anybody, but I will keep a boulder in my pocket for the Vigilante series.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Metaphorically.
When I see the boulder arrive, I will know where it came from.
Jennifer's boulder.
Jennifer's
There you go.
boulder.
Yes.
There'll be a little plaque on it too, like, who's Jennifer? Ah,
Deborah,
What?
do you start out?
I don't kill
I guess
anybody with a boulder.
I was gonna say, well, okay,
I
that's
want
fair.
to kill somebody with a boulder. I really.
You could all kill somebody with a boulder.
I think
I
everyone.
feel like
should-
we need you now.
I think the next year's anthology, next year's charity anthology is going to be stories of people who get killed with a boulder. That's what's going
Okay.
to happen. That's what's going to happen. For the cozies, Deborah, you probably have to plan out like exactly all of that ahead of time. You probably don't get the chance to like change your
it's-
mind.
It is interesting. I mean, thankfully, I am a plotter, not a pantster anyway. So I tend to do outlines. And of course, you know, when you have a publisher, they tend to want to know what the book's about before they buy it. It's weird. But
Bullshit
with-
is what it is.
yeah, it's kind of annoying. But with mysteries, I actually sit down before I ever start writing the book and I do plot out everything. I mean, some things change as you go along, but what happens is as I'm plotting, sometimes things show up that surprise me. Like the second murder in Doggone Deadly, I had planned, you know, the original death that was going to trigger everything, and then
Right.
you know, carry my main character into the mystery. And then I got to a certain point of the book and I went, oh, that lady gonna die too. Oops, okay. That's fine. And she's gonna get found where? Ooh, that's nasty. They are just nasty. So yeah, it's still, as I'm plotting, sometimes things come up and surprise me. And my editor was really happy. She's like, you killed 2 people? That's great.
Up the body count.
Yeah, it's, you know, the things that you do to make your editor happy.
Lisa, do you know ahead of time who's going to get off, or is everybody just available to whatever the story brings?
Well, since I write paranormal romance, I'm not supposed to kill the hero and heroine, but it is paranormal, and I am a pantser, not a plotter. And this gonna be a big spoiler alert, but anyway, Pirate's Promise, there was this cursed sword, the Tyrfing sword from Norse mythology that the immortal pirates were hunting. And when I write, I usually write in sprints on Zoom with my friends, and we came back from a sprint and I'm just bawling, and everybody's like, are you okay? And I said, I accidentally killed them both. And it was horrible. Oh my God, it ripped my heart out. Every time I went back through and edited that scene of the book, I bawled. It was awful.
But did you bring them back?
I did. I found a way to bring them back. After the sprinting, I sat around, walked around my house going, what am I going to do? There has to be a way to bring them back. But the pirates are immortal from the Holy Grail. But this curse on the sword for the hungry, bloodthirsty sword kind of canceled it out. So I'm like, oh God. But anyway, I did find a way to bring them back. All's good. It does have a happy ending, but that was very unexpected because usually my hero and heroine are off the table because in a romance, you can't kill one of the hero or heroine.
Right.
But surprise, yes, you can. You just have to be able to bring them back.
Loophole,
that was- loophole, yes, paranormal loophole. Yeah, so anyway, but that was scary and awful and sad. But it all ended well. But it worked, but that's the first time ever that I've killed a hero or heroine in the books. Usually they are off the table. I can't.
They're safe.
I actually did something like that in my Baba Yaga series. After the series finished with Berkeley, I put out a couple of my own, and I actually had revisited the first Baba Yaga and had something magical happen that destroyed the relationship with her. She already had her happily ever after, and all of a sudden it didn't exist, and thankfully she was able to get it back, so she got happily ever after twice. But yeah, it was like everybody who went through the first book and was like, oh, yay, they're together and it's lovely and there's this and there's that. And then in this book, they're like, wait, what? What do you mean they're not together anymore? And he doesn't even know who she is. And wait, what? So yeah, it was heartbreaking because I'm like, she remembered him and he didn't remember her. So you had that whole,
my heart.
Yeah, but it worked out okay. And one person did die in that book, but it was the person you wanted to die really bad. And I really enjoyed writing that scene because I hated that character.
Right?
Yeah,
that's good.
But it is very satisfying to kill off the villain.
Right? Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see here. We've got quite a few comments in here. So Tammy says, Tere, you did succeed in making me cry at the beginning of that book. So there you go. Thumbs up to you. Suzanne says, Tere, all I can think about is emotional damage. So there's that. Ashley says she loves the cozy mysteries. Delorianne says, James, you made me care about a spider. So that's pretty impressive.
Right.
Let's see here. Another thumbs up for the Vigilante series. Heather says that the anthology can be called Boulder Boulders. Like BOLDER, boulders. So there you go.
Some of them can take place in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
All the boulders.
All the boulders.
They all that's what it is. They're getting shipped to other places in the world from Boulder, Colorado, and accidents occur along the way. See, look at how productive this conversation is.
There are stretches of the mountain highway in Colorado that boulders roll down, and there are big signs.
Watch for falling rocks.
Yeah.
Yep,
we've got a lot of those here.
Yep, absolutely. So let's see here. When we were little, I will do a little teeny tiny sidestep to see how it got brought in. When we were little, we traveled a lot around the country before we started school. And we were driving in Colorado, and the falling rock signs, we would see them. My dad had us convinced, because we would stop at like camping sites at night. He had all of us convinced that falling rock was the spirit of an Indian, and he would come after kids who didn't go to sleep when they should, or that got out of their tent at night.
Oh my God.
And the watch for falling rock signs that we passed everywhere just reinforced that we were supposed to be watching out and being wary of this spirit that was
story.
You should be
keeping us from wandering out of the tent. So that's the boulder. See now, how did this happen? Okay. Question, have you ever miscalculated or surprised yourself with a death? For example, had to tone it down in edits or push the boundaries further? Oh, okay, James. That's all you, dude.
It's just immediately no. I never tone it down. Immediately no. it's always more of a challenge of, well, what can I do bigger? What can I do bloodier? What can I do
Right.
more? Yeah. Never
Anybody
tone
else?
it down.
Yeah, never tone it down. Anybody else?
When I wrote book 3 of the Vigilante series, the main villain, this is not really a spoiler, I guess, because I'm not telling you who the main villain is. The main villain sort of died off page. And when I was reading through, I was trying not to be bloodthirsty. And then I was like, no, this person's going to die in very typical action story
Grandiose.
stereotype or whatever, where you think you kill him, but he's still sort of alive and he's sort of like limping away. And you're like, I can't kill you. And it takes you like 4 scenes to kill him, because I felt like there was some rage that people needed to
work through.
Not just me, but I like really needed to honor the fact this was a terrible person and that he didn't deserve to like get hit by a falling burning beam or something like that. No. He deserved a lot more than that. And then I also, now that I think about it, I added a super violent scene that for me was just like, holy crap, like how do you describe pooling blood no bigger, which I had not really spent a lot of time with, and it was super violent, and I just all right, and it actually led to another violent scene. The 3rd book is very violent. I feel like I was coming into my own of writing people getting killed a lot.
Well, we're going to talk about research here in a minute. Lisa, have you ever been surprised by how far writing a death went and you had to like tone it back or
no, I've never toned it down. No, I like it to be gooey. I'm pretty sure from book 1 that I ever had published, people got right away that I was either too much for you or we're gonna be gooey. Because that's just, I read a lot of horror, and that's, you know, I like to be scared. So
yeah.
So I never toned it down. But I did have a book in the Moon series. There is a secondary bad guy, and I really hated him. Everyone hated him. And so in let's see, in book 5 in Ice Moon, I really wanted to kill him, but I knew I needed him for book 6 for Blue Moon. He couldn't die yet. And my husband gave me the idea of, what about a soap opera death? And I went, oh, perfect. So anyway, so in Ice Moon, he is set on fire, but it's during a blizzard. And so there's a woman with pyrokinesis. So he is like on fire. She like sets him on fire with her mind, but he rolls down a cliff. So he gets thrown off a cliff and on fire. But at the end of the book, they never actually find the body. So they don't know if he was completely incinerated or what. And then in book 6, he comes back as he's very melted and a little mentally scarred as well. And then I got to really kill him. So I got to kill him twice, which was nice.
There you go.
He deserved it though. He was awful.
That's funny.
Everybody hated that guy.
That's funny. Deborah, are you able to get to the point where it gets bad enough that you have to back it up, or is your stuff?
No, with cozies, you never want to do anything too gory. If obviously if you want like the gory stuff, you go to these 3. If you want something that you're gonna be like, oh, okay, that was bad, he died, okay, then come to me. Yeah, my stuff isn't gonna, especially the cozies, they're not gonna make you like weep uncontrollably. You may reach for your wine a little faster, but that's pretty much it, because the whole point of cozies is they're basically comfort food, which is one of the reasons I'm enjoying writing them right now, because that's what I want to read. I want to read comfort food books. I have stacks of books by my favorite like urban fantasy authors that are much darker, that I keep saying I'll read that next year. I can't read this
Mhm.
this year.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean there are things that none of it's pleasant, you know.
Right.
One of them involves a pair of scissors plunged into somebody's chest, you know, but you
Oh,
don't, you know, you just, you know, see the body and you don't see it happen. So
Right.
there's never that kind of like angst that goes with it. There's
Gotcha.
more the angst of the people who discover the body and go, oh crap, it's a body.
Yeah.
And
right.
really, look, somebody did that really bad thing to that man we don't like.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with you with the next question then. What kind of research, if any, have you, because there's that meme, that joke that goes about, you know, with writers, FBI has got everybody on watch list because of their search history, you know. So what kind of research have you had to do to maybe get a
Delete
little
my browser
creative?
history.
Yeah,
Well, I
exactly.
have to say, you know, when I did the paranormal romance, I you know, at one point I was researching nuclear plants in California, and I was like, oh, this is the one the FBI is going to get me on now. But I actually did do some research. First of all, my main research was reading a whole bunch of cozies because it wasn't a genre that I read heavily in. I had a few people that I liked, but you know, I tried to figure out what things that I didn't like because, you know, as somebody who's used to writing paranormal romance and urban fantasy, my one complaint about cozies was, well, nothing happens. You know, there's
Right.
no killing, you know, no, you know, there's no big battles, there's no kissing hardly, there's, you know, there's no all sorts of stuff. They don't even let you swear, damn it. So I had to figure out ways to put in action in, you know, ways that were more acceptable, but Doggone Deadly, which was the second one, took place at a dog show. And I have a secret weapon with these books, which is that my best friend is a dog groomer and also the dog warden of her local town and part of the kennel club locally, so that she actually had like a booklet from the dog shows she used to help put on and could say, this is what happens here and this is what
Right.
happens there. Ironically, in the first book, Forbidden Fatality, the one who gets killed is an evil dog warden. I promise it was not her. It's not, you know. And you know, there is the protagonist's best friend is a dog groomer who is 6 foot tall, gay, and has lavender hair. That is also not my friend, but you know, she had lots of information, and then
Right.
you know, because my character basically wins the lottery and takes over this falling down shelter, I had to research like what the rules are for shelters, which you know, again, my secret weapon gave me stacks of paperwork. Is boring. You know, I'd much rather research, you know, where boulders fall the most often.
Right.
You know, but yeah, I
How
actually
many people
did,
are killed by boulders per year?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
It was important research. But I did a surprising amount of research. I also did personal research because the shelter in these books is actually based, of course, loosely because it's fiction. Don't sue me. They're thrilled. It's based on a local shelter, which was started by one woman, you know, in out of her apartment, and is grown to be this much bigger thing, but is run on a shoestring. And I actually got 3 of my 5 cats from them. I've done some volunteer work there. And one of the things that gave me the idea for this series is I saw all this stuff that was happening behind the scenes and went, you know, things like, oh my God, the dog room is really loud. How does anybody stand that? You know,
Yeah.
and oh my goodness, they wash dishes all day long. That's all, you know, they're washing dishes and blankets and towels. So that was some of my in-person research, was not something that I did for previous
Yeah.
books.
Well,
But I got to pet a lot of cats.
the research for the killing, though, that probably, because the person was probably already dead, so you didn't really have to get into like the
Right.
hows and whys of
Actually,
the
no.
actual killing part of it.
The for the killing part, the first, again, spoilers, but you know, it's in like the first chapter of the book. So if you're going to pick up the book, you're going to see it. So this dog warden is killed with his own snare pole, which is basically a wire loop on a pole, which they use to control, you know, dogs that are dangerous and things. And I had to research whether or not what a snare pole looked like, how it worked, and whether in fact somebody who was weaker or stronger could kill somebody with it,
Right.
so that it would make
For the equipment.
a wider bunch of suspects. It couldn't be something that could only be used by a big strong guy, because that would eliminate the folks I wanted to be casting blame on. So no, I got to research that. Not that I found any actual examples of anybody being killed that way, but I had to make sure it was possible.
Right. Tere?
And it is.
Good to know. I know nothing about guns. So when I did the Vigilante series, that took some research, because I don't get into necessarily the mechanics of guns. I know I've read a lot of thrillers where they tell me much more information that I think people who like guns are like, that's excellent, I know what that means. And I'm just like, gun, and then move on to the rest of it. So I just needed a specific type of gun, like a weight that it could do things, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Other than that, I have just really watched all of the Law and Orders ever. So that's my main source of research, in terms of that. Honestly, I've had to research a few things, but again, it was really just the gun. What would somebody like this be carrying? How heavy is it? Could he put it in his back? Like, where could he hold it? How much ammunition? Like that sort of information. So that's very jarring within my search history, to have that in existence. The rest of it, as I said, just really comes from Dick Wolf's research, which I appreciate his 20+ years of research. So I didn't have to.
There you go.
Yeah, I can rest him.
That's great. James?
Well, I have research that I do all the time. But I guess the weirdest thing that I've ever done was go into the refrigerator and poke a lot of things to figure out a texture for a scene.
There you go.
It wasn't in the Deacon Chalk books, but it was in the Red Right Hand series that I was like, well, what is this going to feel like? So I had to go in there and stick my finger in the honey mustard and poke the ham and, try to get something that I hadn't already written texture-wise for some gory stuff.
That is fantastic. I love it. Lisa, how about you? Have you had to do any research for any of your killings?
Yes, much research for killings. So it depends on how I want them to go. And then I try to figure out what are the symptoms of that, so that then that's, if it's a violent scene, obviously, knife in chest equal bad. But I've had scenes where I need the character to, almost die, and I need to know if it will be painful or not painful. And this is going to be another spoiler, but I think I brought it in here. All my writer friends are still pissed at me for killing Deacon in this book. And this was probably my most beautiful death scene ever. It was just, your heart. But anyway, I needed these two, my werewolves are born instead of twins, and I needed this guy to lose his twin, and I needed it to happen on the page because he was too perfect and I needed to damage him. But I loved Deacon, and so I didn't want it to be a painful death, but I needed it to happen. So anyway, I went searching down the internet, how can I kill someone without it hurting too bad? And and I discovered internal bleeding, and they were breaking someone out of prison, so I had a wall fall on him, and I gave all the
There we go.
Almost a boulder. But of course, the blunt force trauma was painful, but he's a werewolf and he's very strong. And so he was able to get back and he was feeling okay, but all of a sudden he was not. And by then it was too late, and his whole middle part was, it was too late.
Right.
And so anyway, that took a lot of research to find just the kind of death that I wanted,
Gotcha.
because I needed it to be, and one time I had a werewolf dad and the werewolf was a doctor. So and the bad guy was a scientist. So I needed some way that he could instantly stop this werewolf from coming after him. And the answer was, after much researching, was a big shot of potassium in the chest to his dad, and it instantly stops his heart.
Wow.
And so the doctor had to get involved to try to save the dad, and bad guy got away. So I do a lot of research into how I could kill them. So again, if anything happens to me, delete my internet history.
Yeah, it just occurred to me that for my third book, the one that's coming out in May, I did a lot of research on poisonous mushrooms. So,
There you
like
go,
deadly
yeah.
poisonous mushrooms. I actually have a picture somewhere on the internet of a cookbook that I had sitting out with this book on deadly mushrooms sitting on top of it, and my housemate looking really frightened.
That's perfect. Should I be concerned?
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry, no,
Took
it's
out all the
okay.
mushrooms.
And I did all the cooking when she was living here, so it was like, yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna call out today. It'll be great.
I would like to suggest a research book for people that I actually used in the Vigilante series. It's called Wicked Plants: The Weed That Killed Lincoln's Mother. And the author is Amy Stewart. And it's just about poisonous plants from around the world and what they do to you.
Wow.
It was actually, I read it for fun, but it actually proved very useful. I just love her books. She's very smart.
Okay.
But yeah.
Say the title and the author one more time in case people missed it.
Amy Stewart, and the book is called Wicked Plants: The Weed That Killed Lincoln's Mother, and Other Botanical Atrocities.
Nice. Very cool.
Fair warning, once you read one Amy Stewart book, both fiction and nonfiction, you will read the rest of her books because they're very interesting. But I was looking very specifically for a tropical plant that at first seemed like, I feel amazing, and then not so much. So I was like, oh, how can I find? And then, oh my God, Amy Stewart saved me, and she did.
Right.
So is Stewart spelled with a W or an AU?
It's EWART, Amy Stewart. Like I said, be prepared to just love all of her books because they're extremely interesting, but I think they're very helpful for writers because you will be amazed as you're flipping through any one of her subjects: bugs, liquor, whatever it is. You'll be like, wait a second, that's a really good idea.
Right.
Note to self.
I love a good story prompt idea book, something that you're looking through it and all of a sudden you're like, I can use that in a book.
1,000%. Also, her fiction series, if I may also plug for Amy Stewart, her fiction series is about the first female sheriff in Bergen County, New Jersey, which is where I live. But it's a fictional version of it, and it's very interesting. So that's my pitch. I don't know her, but I just really love her work. And I think other writers
has changed hands.
Well, I think other writers would, and people who are just interested in those kinds of subjects would find the way she approaches things very interesting. So I just filled your TBR list. Apologies, as always.
Not a problem. We are all about recommendations. Coastal Magic is all about sharing books. So anytime you got one to share, talk it up. I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask, but the more I think about it, I think it might be too spoiled. I was going to ask you what your favorite death was in any of your books. I was going to ask you what death upset your fans the most, but both of those might be a little bit too spoily. So I'm actually going to, instead of asking those, I'm going to ask one from the readers. Are any of you true crime fans, and do any of the true crime cases inspire your fictional stories? So let's go with that and skip the spoilers for this time. So Tere, how about you start?
Oddly enough, I have a series in my back pocket that is urban fantasy, but based on true crime.
Nice. Look at that. And I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's not quite ready to be done because I'm still world building. It's quite a different type of story for me. Still set in New York, of course. But yeah, I love true crime. like love and have since I was a teenager. One summer in high school, I spent the entire summer checking out every true crime book from the library and reading it. So thankfully people don't keep track of that sort of things, or I might have been arrested because it was like 40 books. But yes, I'm a true crime fan. I don't know that I necessarily write crimes in my story, but I am fascinated by the people left behind by crime, because I'm a writer and I'm interested in the other side for people. So what is the result for the people who survive? And I think that actually kind of informs some of what I write, because I am interested, like, what happens after this person died? Like, you kill a person, oh my God, they're dead. And then I really dislike it when people just go on like, oh my God, Fred's dead, that's a shame. Like I want the emotional impact. Once again, apologies to the faith, love, and devotion readers. I want that emotional impact to keep going, because to me, that's the part that interests me. That's the part that touches me. Right. So yes, I love true crime, but I have officially at this point watched all of them, because anytime I put on a show, I'm like, oh, that's the guy who did the thing. And then it turned out it was his brother. Like, I can call them in the first like tagline where they're like, it was a summer day in Iowa. I'm like, oh, that's Susan what's her face. Her husband did it. They won't find out for 40 years. Like, I've just watched too much of it at this point. So.
James, how about you?
Growing up, I was a casual true crime fan. I would read it and enjoy it, but coming out of the relationship I was in 2 years ago, where all we could watch was true crime, I'm a little burned out on it. So,
Gotcha.
If it's not a Tiger King level, like chaos, white trash, true crime, I can't sit down with it. I can't do another serial killer or kids dying.
Right.
Not yet. Not there yet.
Gotcha. Deborah?
Actually, I have a Coastal Magic story about that. I do not like true crime stuff at all. But whenever I come to Coastal Magic, as you know, I share a room with Lucianne Diver, who lives and breathes true crime. And the first time we shared a room and watched it, and she's the sweetest woman on the planet Earth. And I'm looking at the TV and the things that she's got on like night and day. And I'm like, should I sleep? Should I not sleep? You know, should I like bolt myself into the bathroom? Oh my God. Because yeah, here's this lovely, sweet woman who just lives and breathes the true crime shows. Oh my God.
That's hilarious. That's fantastic. Lisa, how about you?
Yeah, I'm like Lucianne Diver. I always watch, I don't know. It started probably in high school with reading Anne Rule, you know, and all the Stranger Beside Me and all that. I don't know. I just enjoy, I want to know what makes them tick. I just can't help it. I want to know, you know. I read the Patricia Cromwell book about Jack the Ripper and who it could have been, you know, and I just want to know what makes them tick. I don't know why. And my husband can't do gore or blood. So it's so funny when he comes in and he looks at these documentaries I'm watching, he's like, but I swear I'm harmless. But I do.
Yeah, that's what all the serial killers say.
Right. Yeah.
Trust me, it's fine. Get in the car.
Yeah. Right. I promise you'll get where you're going.
Okay, I'm a single woman who lives alone in the middle of nowhere in an old farmhouse. The last thing I need to be doing is reading about serial killers. I'd never sleep again.
I am going to ask you one question that could possibly borderline into spoiler, but I think if we do brief answers, we can skip the spoiler part of it. What is the most interesting or unusual tool or process that you use to kill someone in your books? Just a couple of sentences. Don't get too much, or else we don't want to give things away too much away. But what's the most interesting either implement or situation where somebody died in one of your books? We'll start with Deborah.
I think that's probably the snare pole that
snare pole.
was used to kill. I mean, I've never read about that in any other books or seen it. And it was one of those things. And the irony of him being killed with his own snare pole after having used it on dogs and things that, there was a certain like poetic irony there, which I kind of liked.
Gotcha. Lisa?
Ice pick.
Gotcha. Tere?
A ferry.
Well then.
Like as in the big boat or the little winged creatures?
The big boat.
Big boat.
See,
Well, there are more than one kind. It's coastal magic. It could be any kind of fairy.
Right.
That is true. And it wasn't until you said which kind that I realized that I didn't even occur to me about the ones with the wings, but that would be hilarious. James?
I guess the most interesting is I used a bandolier grenades to decapitate a T-Rex.
Well, there you go.
Where T-Rex? Oh my God, I'm in. What?
Yep.
That was a full sentence. That was a full sentence.
Right?
Yep.
Oh my God. Wow. Aware T-Rex. So in. Okay. You
All right,
just
guys.
sold the book.
There you go. There you go.
Your work here is done.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so we are at the time of the chat where we need to wrap things up. So we're gonna give each of you a chance to talk about anything you might have had come out recently, anything you might have coming out later this year, any appearances you might be making, and where people can find you online to learn more about you and your books. So let's start with Deborah.
Okay. Forbidden Fatality, Doggone Deadly. Those are the 2 books in the Cozy series that are out already. And the 3rd one will be out in May. Hopefully if the books show up in the warehouse and they can print them and there's a truck available. Everything I've had come out this year has been late, so we'll see, but hopefully May. You can find me online at deborahblakeauthor.com, where you will also find, that's my website, there's links to Deborah Blake on Twitter, Deborah Blake on Facebook, Deborah Blake Author on Instagram. I have a Patreon, all that kind of groovy stuff. Yeah, and the only place, as far as I know, that I am going this year, hopefully, is VoucherCon at I think it's the end of August in Minnesota.
Cool. James? Pardon me, I'm gonna mute, sorry.
The Deacon series is coming out from Falstaff this summer and spring with a new book, and so you can try that there. I do want to plug, there's an anthology that I was a part of, The Unholy Thirst from Pavane Press, that you can order on Amazon. It's all vampire stories, including a brand new Sonia Blue story by Nancy A. Collins, which is one of the things that inspired me to write. And it is a fabulous short story. Well worth picking up the anthology just for that one. But it's full of really good stories. I'm very proud to be in that anthology.
Nice. And where do people find you online to learn more about your stuff?
They can go to my website, which is jamesrtuck.com, but it's not updated. It may get updated this year. Who knows? I'm really, really bad with that. So.
Gotcha. Lisa?
Well, I just had Sedona Salvation final book in the Sedona pack is out, so ready for binge reading. And the first 3 books just came out in audiobook on Scribd. So, and they offer a 30-day free trial and you can listen to all 1 million audiobooks. So anyway, so that's out there. And, my next book to come out this is exciting, my first thriller trilogy, and I'm putting it out under LA Kessler. Yeah, perfect.
That's cool.
It's all about, I'm super excited. It's going to be a trilogy, and I'm putting it out under LA Kessler, which is obviously me. I'm not keeping it a secret, but I just want my romance people to know that there is a romance subplot but it is not front and center. The big story is these scientists who are cloning perfect children and what happens if you're not. So this is the first story, and it's the story of Juliet and what if your life depended on being perfect. So, so anyway, I'm super excited. First book comes out in May, and
Very cool.
so woo,
All right. And so
there
where
will be
can
more
people find
killings
you online. No, you're good. You're good.
At authorlisakessler.com, and all my social medias are on there. And I'm pretty much on everything, including I'm attempting to be on TikTok, and my daughter just laughs and says, okay, you're adorable. You don't have to use every button on TikTok. I'm like, but there's stickers.
Mhm.
I told her
That's
they
great.
would have that button if they don't want you to use it. She's like,
That's
yeah,
great.
you don't have to use it. But anyway, so come find me.
Cool. Tere?
My current series is a non-killing series, just so everybody knows, but I think it's good anyway. It's called Broadway or Bust. And the first book came out in November. And the second book should be out in a few months. There's 4 total. If you like the killing, there's the Vigilante series. 3 books are out. There will be more, but the first 3 is a trilogy. Like, there's no cliffhangers. So there's a settled story within the 3 books. TereMichaels.com, TERE Michaels.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram somewhat. If you will eventually like looking at pictures of my tomatoes when they come back, you should definitely check out my Instagram. You can find me next week on Thursday and Friday. I am reteaching my Coastal Magic workshop, which is making it marvelous, using the Marvel universe to improve writing your series. We had a spanking good time on Thursday. And as you can tell, my voice has not even recovered from that, but we are redoing it on Friday night and Saturday afternoon for people who couldn't attend. So,
Yeah. And I posted about that this morning on the Coastal Magic page on Facebook. So if you want the link and information about how to sign up for that, you can look on just the public Coastal Magic Facebook page, and it's got the link to all of the information about how to set that up for yourself. All right, so we are done, folks. Thank you very much for spending your Sunday morning with me, and for talking about killing things, because that's fun, right?
Right?
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yep. All right, so we are just at the beginning of our last day, so there's still quite a bit more to do as far as chats and panels. If you are watching online, I would love for you to check out the schedule and see what else is coming up. And that is available on coastalmagicconvention.com, and also there's a graphic on the Facebook page, so you can follow along there if you like. Thank you very much to all of you for the chatting, and to everyone who's watching, and we will catch you later today for more stuff. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.